Hi, Grandma Debbie here. So, when you were growing up, did you have hamburger helper or have you made hamburger helper for your kids? Well, growing up, I didn't have hamburger helper. I don't know if it was around. It might have been, but I grew up in a small town and grocery shopping was a trip. So, I don't even know, if it was at the grocery store. It might have been. But when I started having kids, I was busy. And so I'd heard that hamburger helper was the best thing to help for busy moms. And so I bought into it. And I made hamburger helper, I made tuna helper, and any other helper. I, even to this day, will make suddenly salad sometime. I mean, I could do it from scratch, but when you're walking through the grocery store and you see that it's on sale for like a real cheap price, you're like, I'm just going to get it and go with that and it'll be fine. Well, it's not always healthy for you though. And so I'm on this quest this year to not eat as much processed food as I have in the past. Processed food is wonderful. It tastes delicious. I'm the first to admit it, but it's not always healthy for us. So I had told myself at the beginning of the year that I was going to try and find some recipes that I used to make that weren't loaded with processed foods. So tonight, I'm going to make a homemade hamburger helper. Now, looking at the instructions, it takes no more time to make a homemade hamburger helper than it does to buy the boxed. And it's used with things that you generally keep in your pantry anyway. So we're going to get started, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be delicious. I read all the directions. I've never made it from scratch. My daughter does a lot, but I don't. We don't generally eat hamburger helper to begin with, but my husband happened to mention a couple weeks back that he would enjoy a hamburger helper. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to do it from scratch instead of buying a boxed. However, I will admit that the noodles are not from scratch. I don't know how to make pasta. I want to learn. It's one of the things that I want to do, but I just haven't done it yet. All right, so we're going to get going, and I'm going to bring you along for it. All right. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do first is we're going to grate up some cheese. And I've got my kettle going for bouillon. So it calls for, how much, what does it call for? 3.5 cups of beef broth. And I'm just using Better Than Bouillon. And I'm going to use a tablespoon and a little more. You can't go wrong with a little more. All right, so my water's heating up. And so in the meantime, we need to grate 1.5 cups of cheese. Now we buy our cheese in bulk from Costco or Sam's Club, depending on which store we're at. And then we just break it up into chunks that is more manageable for us. And because otherwise it just goes bad. So we're going to do 1.5 cups. Now, if you've been around for a while, you know that generally I don't measure the cheese. But I am this time because I've never made this recipe before. Okay, so my tea kettle has heated up. So I'm going to add hot water. I'm going to add 3.5 cups. And then I'm just going to whisk it up. Have you guys ever tried Better Than Bouillon whether it's the chicken, the beef, or whatever other flavors they have. It's absolutely delicious. I really like it. And what I like about it too is that if I only need a couple of cups or even a cup, I don't have to open a whole package for it. That I can make as much as I need, and so I'm not wasting a bunch of broth. All right, we got it all mixed up. So we're going to move to the other side of the kitchen. And I have my cup and a half of cheese. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cook our onion and our beef. Now, it only calls for half a cup, but I'm going to add a cup of onions. We buy our onions in bulk, and then we measure it out. And I don't have any other recipes going on this week that would warrant leaving half a cup of onion. So I just figured, what's the harm, right? So, and then it calls for a pound of ground beef. Now you can also, I know it says Hamburger Helper, but you can use ground turkey if that's what you have. Use whatever you happen to have. I know ground beef right now is quite expensive. So, like I said, use whatever you happen to have. And if it's ground turkey, then use ground turkey. Ground turkey tastes wonderful. It actually doesn't have any taste to it until you add seasonings to it. So it's not going to have any flavor. You're going to have to add the flavor. So when you're adding all the seasonings, then it's not really going to matter if it's turkey or hamburger. But I would imagine you could do ground pork or ground chicken. I'm not a huge fan of ground chicken. I like chicken. I'm just not a huge fan of ground chicken. So tell me, growing up, did you have Hamburger Helper? And if so, what was your favorite kind? I know there's several different kinds that you can get at the grocery store. When I was feeding it to my kids, there were only a few selections. And same thing with a tuna helper. Now I would prefer, I'm not a huge fan of tuna to begin with, but if I'm going to eat it, I'd do a tuna casserole before I'd do tuna helper. And tuna casseroles is nice because you cook it up ahead of time. You can actually make a couple of them if you want and freeze one. And then you have 2 meals ready to go. Everything's already cooked because you're using canned tuna. So why not, right? And I will admit, when my husband and I were first married, we didn't have a lot of extra money. And so I had to learn how to make our meals stretch. And so I would make a tuna casserole, and we would eat on it for a couple days because, it was an inexpensive meal. Same thing with Hamburger Helper. It usually lasted us a couple days, 1 box. And I can tell you that just looking at this already, we are going to have a couple meals out of this one. So, which is nothing is wrong with that. I love to take our leftovers and put them in dishes and put them in the freezer. And then we have what we call freezer night. I don't know, you can call it whatever you want, but all it basically is that during, when we're super busy, we will plan a night where we just grab something out of the freezer. It could be leftover mac and cheese, or it could be I don't know, roast, or it could be taco meat, or whatever we happen to have is what we grab out of the freezer. We have currently in our freezer, we have a couple of things of chicken stock. I had made, my husband and I, not just me, we had made some chicken noodle soup for our daughter's office. And while we were doing the chicken noodle soup, we had made enough chicken broth that we were able to put several quarts of it in the freezer. I think we had, I want to say that we ended up with 4 extra quarts in our freezer. So, and I did make chicken noodle soup probably about a week ago, I think it was. And I actually ended up with leftovers on that. We ate on it for 2 nights, and then I just had leftovers, and we just had that for whatever dinner, or I think we ended up putting the chicken noodle soup in the freezer in containers, and so that will be a meal for us at some point. All right, so we got a lot of liquid here, so I'm going to spoon the liquid off, and because that is just way too much. There. All right, on to the next step. Okay, so now we're going to add in our tomato paste. So you're just using a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. All right, so we got our tomato paste in there. And now we're going to add in ketchup. We're adding in, oh, I was only supposed to add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Oops, my bad. So we got extra tomato paste. That's okay. So now we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of ketchup. We'll just let it cook a little longer. It'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, then we're going to add in garlic powder. So we're only doing half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Guess I should have paid attention to the recipe before I did the tomato paste, but at the end of the day, what was I going to do with the rest of it? I have no idea. Okay, then we're going to add in a 1/4 of a teaspoon of chili powder. And we're adding in a 1/4 of a teaspoon of paprika. Now we get a lot of our spices in the Mexican section of our grocery store. And the reason why we do that is because it's a lot cheaper. So we figure, why not? All right, so then we're going to add in salt and pepper. You're going to add in, it says a half a teaspoon. That looks about right. Once again, you know that I don't measure very often. When it comes to salt and pepper, I just do it to what I think is the right amount. turn this back on. We're going to mix this up until it becomes fragrant. So for about 2 minutes. And to be honest with you, I don't think the tomato paste is really going to hurt it. So if you want to do a whole can, then do a whole can. Okay, so at this point, because it is becoming fragrant, so I'm going to add in our broth. And we're going to bring this up to what are we going to do? We're going to bring it up to a boil. So we're going to heat it over high heat until it comes to a boil. Shouldn't take very long because the water was hot that I had made the bouillon with. So it really shouldn't take very long at all. Oops, and I'm splashing it all over the place. And then we're going to add our macaroni. We're going to add a cup of elbow macaroni. Now, I would say that if you don't have elbow macaroni, but you have, I don't know, egg noodles or any other kind of noodles, toss it in there instead. Why not, right? A recipe's just a guide, make it your own. Oh, this is smelling so good. I wish that there was a way for you to smell this because it is so good. So when you make it, you're going to know what I'm talking about. It smells just delicious. All right, it's coming to a boil. So I'm going to grab the macaroni noodles. Oh, I left them over here within arm's reach. So I've got a cup of macaroni noodles, and I'm just going to stir these in. And then I'm going to reduce the heat because you just want it to simmer. So I'm reduced it to medium, and it's going to cook uncovered for about 13 minutes. So I am going to set a timer so I know to check it in 13 minutes. I mean, I will be stirring occasionally. So, but you don't need to be here for me stirring. That's boring. Might as well watch paint dry, right? All right, so I'll bring you back. Okay, so this has been bubbling away. I've stirred it several times. It looks wonderful. It smells great. So now we're going to add in the cheese. And we're going to stir this until the cheese is all melted and nice and creamy. And then we're going to let it sit for a few minutes until everything comes together. And then we're going to serve it. Yep, and the cheese is all melted. So I'm going to turn off the heat. And we're just going to let this sit here until for a few minutes to come together. Doesn't that look wonderful? Look at that. It's wonderful to me. I'm looking forward to it. And it smells great. So I'm looking forward to trying it. Okay, so I just want to thank you for coming along with me on this journey. I hope that everything's going great for you and that you are having an amazing and wonderful day. And like I said, I've never made hamburger helper from scratch. So if you have any tips or tricks or a different recipe, please share with me because I would really like to try something different or enhance what I've done. All right. So we're going to be enjoying dinner. I'm going to put the lid on it and let it sit for a little bit. And then we're going to enjoy it. And like I said, my kitchen smells wonderful and I'm looking forward to it. It's been a cold, windy, rainy day today. We might get snow. I don't know. We're going to see. And so this meal is perfect for it. All right. Well, like I said, I hope everything's going great and you are having an amazing day. Hit the like, hit the share, and hit the subscribe button. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.